It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was a right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized into this. Get right on it, Chief.
Captain Skinner, but Bubba's my name. I like my iced tea sweet and my women the same. I'm your brown-haired badge here in little old Sparta, but nobody's bigger or tougher or smarter. If you're looking to fight, best not be with me. Gonna be held tight, well now we'll just see. You never know in the heat of the night on TNT. Heat of the night on TNT. Now I don't put on any airs, but then I ain't no slob. Just a redneck boy with a blue-collar job. The ladies I date, they gonna have for you.
This hour of the Alan Autry Show is sponsored by Sinlaw, the most realistic artificial grass in the Central Valley.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KFTX.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. It is Free for All Friday, and we are here live. No tape delay. No, fake it and then fix all your errors that you make on the show. You get it raw here. And there is no one I would love better to be by my side as we deliver it raw
Oh, well, pretty raw.
than Mr. Raw, Robert Bullet Bob Leone.
Hey, Hoss.
Welcome, Bullet.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
And folks, appreciate
Good
you
to be
so
here.
much. Thanks to you. No, Autry's army is growing, man. I mean, we're growing bit by bit by bit. Facebook viewers, YouTube viewers, radio listeners. We're getting on the old common sense train together.
Well, that's good.
The old I Love America.
We need a little bit of common sense,
Yeah.
even if it's just a little bit.
And I Love God train. I mean, that's a good train to be on.
Ah,
Isn't it?
perfect trade.
I love riding that train. Faith, family, freedom.
Yep.
That's what we're about here.
Hey,
Hey, I'm excited because a lot of things. I mean, it's Free for All Friday, so feel free, Bullet, to jump in anytime. I'm going to go see Oppenheimer today with my wife.
Oh, okay.
4:05.
Okay.
And I'm really looking forward to this.
I'd love to get a review from you on that,
Yeah.
because I know you really got some good things to say about it. But
Well, I'm reading the reviews, and I'm so thankful because from the get-go on this show, I've made the specter of nuclear annihilation a big part of this show. It's a feel-good show.
that's a compliment.
It's a cheery up
That's
show. We love to have
I
fun.
feel
We
better
have,
now.
yeah. We have to
Thanks, Austin.
laugh now because tomorrow you will be ashes. No, it's something you got to laugh. It is the world we live in. You have to laugh through the tears. You got to final escape from it. But you cannot ignore the fact that we have this nuclear threat out there, and never has chaos and war and the probability of a nuclear exchange, either on purpose or accidentally, than there is in the war in Ukraine with Russia. And I pointed this out from the get-go. You have to get to that peace table for a lot of reasons. That's where it's going to end up anyway. It's just how many people die, Bullet, on the way. But this movie, I just have a gut feeling based on 100% just a gut feeling. I think God may be up to something with this movie, because I don't think God wants to see us just totally nuclear annihilate ourselves. He loves us all. And it's hard for some of y'all to understand, and it took me a long time to understand. And Robert, I know for you, the basic tenet of
A couple of hard lessons.
yeah, but
Hard lessons.
hard lessons, but that very difficult basic tenet that God loves everyone. See, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, which means that God loves Xi Jinping as much as he does us. Yes, he may not get to heaven. Maybe he will. We pray for him. But does he love Putin? Yes. Does he love that alleged serial killer that they just found? Yes. Grace can be offensive to a lot of people. But God loves us, all of us. He wants us to, if we're not following him, he wants us to seek him. He wants us to stay alive long enough to have that change of heart, to seek him. So he doesn't want nuclear annihilation. But we have an enemy of our soul who does. And I'm seeing this Ukraine-Russia war escalating closer and closer and closer to nuclear Armageddon. Maybe this movie, Oppenheimer, which shows how the first atomic bomb was made. Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I would like to get your feedback on that, because you have an intimate knowledge of what goes into a production like this. But just for the theme and the basic story of the movie, I'd really like to get your feedback.
Well, here's what I'm hearing, and from some reviewers I really respect. It is mesmerizing from beginning to end, and it's almost a 3-hour film.
Wow.
Now, the last time
Really?
I heard, yes, the last time I had read reviews like this on a 3-hour, and it was actually a 3-hour plus film, was The Godfather. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be disappointed in this movie.
Too long.
The hype is up to about the Italian mafia. I can't relate to that. Give me an old Western with John Wayne. Maybe I'd go 2.5 hours. Maybe.
Stretching it.
With the Duke or Dirty Harry,
There you
Stallone,
go.
But apparently it is spellbinding and mesmerizing from the beginning to the end, and they're liking it too. Well, Matt Damon says, he made the movie. He was in the movie. Right. I guess he does very well. He said, when you're in a movie, it's tough to suspend disbelief because you're in a movie. You saw all these things being made. You know it's pretend. As realistic as you try to make it, it's still pretend.
Right, exactly.
So he says he was on the edge of his seat. From
Oh, my
beginning
word,
to
really?
end. Yeah. This Christopher,
one of the actors
yes,
in the movie.
And they got a lot to lose. I mean, you make a statement like that, then people go see it, then they're online going, Matt Damon, what a hype machine.
Yeah.
You're just out trying to get people and he's made enough money, he doesn't need to do that. So I'm really looking forward to that because maybe, just maybe, the wake-up call could be this movie about what we're risking. Because apparently when they show that atomic bomb going off, the special effects are just breathtaking. And they get into the subjects, have we actually stopped the war that's happened during World War II, or have we developed the end of the world? And that's the psychological.
What a question.
Yes.
What a question.
And then what Truman had to make the decision, Robert, of his military folks were telling him, if you invade Japan, you're talking about 250 million to 300 million American soldiers dying at minimum. If you go, because the Japanese are not going to give up.
Not in their homeland.
The kamikazes, all that stuff, not their homeland. So you drop this bomb, and hopefully that'll shock them into giving up, and it did. But anyway, looking forward to seeing that movie. I will be back with reviews. You got anything you want to get off your chest, Bobby?
Hey, just a matter of fact, I do. Okay. I have 5 things.
Cinco?
And I was gonna. I think I may need to rework this and name it Grumpy Old Man. 5 things a grumpy old man
complains about.
Because I do seem to have a lot.
Don't complain. We don't complain.
Folks, if you're our age, I don't know about you, but I always find something to complain about. I try not to do it too much because I try to go through life now that I'm at this age
I got
with
so
a smile in my face and joy in my heart. But dadgummit, sometimes, did I just say dadgummit?
You said dadgummit.
I quoted Mr. Autry. That's one of his favorite lines.
Carlos Brown.
Yes, there you go.
I'm back to Carlos Brown. I went off. I veered off for like 40 years. Now I'm back to Carlos Brown.
With the writer's strike, you're back
to darn right,
to civilian again.
Talking about complaining. There is something. You've got to guard against it as you get older.
It's terrible.
Oh, it's terrible. I put a Coke Zero in the refrigerator the other day. And I'm thinking, okay, it was hot, got it out of the pantry. I'm thinking in 30 minutes, this thing's going to be nice and ice cold. It was one of those Coke Zero minis.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I put it in here. My show's on. I have my little routine. I like to sip my Coke Zero while I watch Perry Mason. So I went in there and I got the Coke Zero, went in there, started sipping on it. Oh, this isn't cold. This isn't, dadnabbit, this isn't cold enough. Now I got to get up and walk all the way back in the kitchen. Dadnabbit. I was actually getting flustered because my Coke Zero Mini wasn't cold enough. You talk about first world problems. I wasn't thinking, well, hey, how about those Ukrainian and Russian soldiers in a trench with cluster bombs and blowing up all around them, and I'm complaining.
How can we put that in perspective at all?
I don't know. Go ahead.
This falls right in. Big items to discuss today. Baseball pitch clock. Good or bad?
I think bad.
Yeah? Are you a traditionalist like me?
Listen, the thing that separates baseball from other sports, I look at everything, a lot of analogies. They use food. Okay? Basketball is fast food. It's over 15-minute quarters, whatever.
Yeah.
Fast action. Boom, boom, boom. Football. It's fast food, really. It's over the clock. The gun goes off and you have the end of the game. It moves. Baseball is a sit-down dinner. You sit down. You order the first course in the first 3 innings. And you talk, and you wait for the batter to do his. Remember Mike Hargrove from the Texas Rangers?
Oh, he was human rain delay.
They called him, folks, the human rain delay because he had this thing you'd go through outside the batter's box.
Oh man, that guy was bad.
And then the anticipation. When it's 3-2, bottom of the ninth, playoff game, 3-3, winning run on third base, and you want the pitcher to walk around. Take a deep breath. Put his cap down. Look out. Maybe look at the heavens. Take a deep breath. The anticipation.
Step off.
Hey, the buildup. But you have to rush that moment now.
Well,
to what? Say 15 minutes on a game? Where do you have to go? I don't like it. I just don't like it.
Yeah, well, you're a traditionalist like I am. Traffic roundabouts.
I'm starting to like them.
Who was the masochist that came up with this idea?
But I've started to like them.
Well, if people know how to drive, I think I know how to drive them. Maybe I don't, but it's not good if somebody in front of me dead stops when they're trying to get around a roundabout.
Well, yeah, if they stop.
That's
remember
another
the
thing
time
I
when you
complain
first,
about.
Yeah, but remember when you first got on the roundabout and you saw that other car coming, you thought it was going to smash right into you.
Well,
but
yeah.
it was moving to the right. It was not. That's what a roundabout does. You merge.
Right.
Man, when I first got on those roundabouts, I'm going roundabout there. And I see this other car going. I slam it on. What the heck you doing here? The guy's looking at me like, just keep going, sir. That's how a roundabout works.
Don't dead stop in front of me. That's not a good idea.
Well, don't dead stop in front of you. Yeah, okay. I think you'll find a lot of people don't like that, along with speed bumps.
Yeah. Oh, well, I got another one coming up.
You know who hates speed bumps?
You?
Well, I mean, that really have a reason to. I'm a fireman.
Yeah,
when I was mayor, I got rid of as many speed bumps as I could, because you're racing to a fire and you hit those speed bumps. I mean, there's no good choice. You slow down so you get the speed bumps, so you get the fire later, which could cost lives.
Those big rigs, though.
Or you hit them and it jolts these firemen. There have been many instances where firemen have their back thrown out and neck thrown out. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, here's another Fresno first.
Go ahead, you old
They
man.
installed new traffic lights 3 months ago in the intersection down by my house, and they're still not operational. They're up. They're covered with cardboard. We're still using a 4-way stop, and there's lights there, but they're not operational yet. Do you have any reason why they might do that?
Well, first of all, I don't know why they're installing something nobody's going to pay attention.
Well,
they run stoplights in this town like crazy. They speed.
Oh my word!
They race.
I just saw one as I'm coming over here.
Yeah,
the left turn signal. It's green. The guy's on his phone. The guy behind him honks his horn. He finally decides to go through. He starts when the thing is yellow. He goes through 3/4 of the intersection, turning left on a red.
You know who has a real problem with this? Does the name Kirby Smart ring a bell?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. The coach of
Georgia.
Coach of Georgia. Yeah. You know, he says one of the big problems, the big concerns at the University of Georgia, and he said it's true around the country, is speeding. These kids come in there, they get in cars, and they just speed. They get in, and I went, wow. And you look at, this kid Ruggs with the Raiders going 150 miles an hour in Las Vegas. And all of these, just the other day, yesterday, I was in the news today, and yesterday a young athlete was going 140 miles an hour.
Oh.
They get these new cars, and you see this around Fresno. I don't know about you all, folks. It might be different in the small towns, as Jason Aldean says. They do things a lot different in a small
town.
Yeah, do that. Bob, 8.1 million views in 6 days for that video. But anyway, we'll get on that subject.
We talked about that.
But the stoplights, there has to be, I never thought I'd hear myself say this. I really did. Because there were speed traps everywhere in Fresno for a while. I don't know if you remember that era, like 3 or 4. I mean, the pendulum went way over the line.
Well, then they brought the cameras into play. Was that when you were in office, when they brought the cameras in? That failed.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, too, Bruto. Yes, it was me. I installed it. One of my biggest mistakes. I mean, you talk about, I was a participant.
Half of them didn't work, and the other half weren't.
We'd get half of a person in there, and the thing, and we spent a bunch of money.
Hey, we got the license plate 4. Yeah. Okay, well, that's not going to help us.
An unwitting participant with Big Brother was me sitting there. I got rid of those things.
Okay.
Well, at least I saw, hey, this thing is bogus. It's not working. I got rid of them. But anyway, they were.
But
they were
right.
writing.
The issue was there. I mean,
yeah.
So you had to do something.
But I remember here in Fresno, and I don't know about you all listening around the country, but the police, I got a warning. Didn't get a ticket, but got a warning for going 27 in a 25 mile per hour.
That's rough.
27.
That's rough.
And I granted, the law's the law. I had to think about it. I got a little perturbed. But now they're not writing tickets for anything. They're blowing by schools going 45, 50 miles an hour. And you're looking at it and you're saying, police department, there's a source of revenue. All you have to do is start writing 2 or 3 tickets. Word gets around that you can get stopped there. So they need to do that. They need to start writing more tickets. Yeah. I never thought I would ever say that. But here in Fresno, at least, they need to do that.
Anything else you're waiting on?
Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Oh,
Have
did
you
you see her last night?
Did you see
Censoring on a censoring
Well, but
committee
I've
meeting
seen
against
her-
anti-censoring. She's
Yeah.
censoring
Yeah.
RFK. Go ahead.
She blasted RFK, which I thought was totally bad. But she seems to be, and maybe I just look at the wrong video cuts. She seems to be a very, very mean, angry, unhappy person to me. Because
A misogynist would say.
Well, there's that.
No, there is not that. I don't know anybody respects women any more than Robert Leone, my bullet Bob here. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
But Haas, really,
Never seen you mistreat
every
any.
time I see her on TV, and again, maybe those are just the fresh cuts that I'm seeing that highlight all this. But she seems to be just very mean, angry, and just not a happy person. I'm sure she probably is, but man, she was taking Kennedy apart like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah, and not letting him answer.
And not letting him answer. And he got
And
a little ticked
and they
off.
totally took this stuff about Chinese, the virus, the coronavirus, not attacking certain ethnicities.
Exactly.
He took that from a Cleveland study. And if you listen to the whole interview and watch the whole video,
Yep.
he doesn't say he believes that. He says that's been out there. It's starting to come out. Then you find out that at the Wuhan laboratory, there is gain of function to see if they can steer a corona or any type of deadly virus to attack a certain type of DNA and not affect another type of DNA. That's perfectly logical. War is war. And by simply just stating that, and then they cut it out, reason they didn't, Wasserman Schultz didn't want to let RFK continue. He was going to say that. He was going to expose her as taking that cut and saying his, what they were doing, saying his quote was actually his position. They never even said on there that it was from a Cleveland University study.
And one of the other committee members did introduce those studies into the record. He said, and he read just briefly a couple of things, and there was that very thing you talked about, signaling out certain ethnicities in this study.
Right.
And so he wasn't totally.
I mean, that's a study that Fauci had no problem with.
Yeah.
So why isn't Fauci a racist anti-Semite?
Yeah.
He's the one that looked at this study, no problem with it. I mean, when they selectively, let me ask you, have you in your life kind of noticed, I haven't, I'm going to be way off base on this, but it seems to me that a lot of people that want to be referred to by three names,
they have issues.
Have a little bit of an ego.
Carlos Allen.
Well, if I went around to you and say, please refer to me as Carlos Allen Brown or Carlos Allen Autry. Or, I mean, even RFK doesn't say, hey, call me Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Just call me Bobby. But those that insist,
the three names,
just like
that sticks in your craw, huh?
Yeah, just like a lot of folks in the education system, they get these academic doctorates. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them, if you don't refer to them as Dr. So-and-so, they will correct your butt. I've had that happen several times.
You want to hear a story about
your
good friend?
Mr. Jones, Dr. Jones, please. With a smile on the face. Yeah, please, I'd like to be referred to as Dr.
Well,
and I'm saying, I'm sorry, Dr. Jones. And inside I'm going, well, excuse me, Mr. Jones.
One of our close friends who has a doctorate was visiting his doctor, his physician.
His actual doctor.
A real doctor. Yeah. Okay. And so he said his doctor was trying to explain something to him, and he said, Dr. So-and-so, you don't have to explain it to me because I, too, am a doctor.
Now, this is not the individual I think it is.
So I said,
is this? Just nod if it is. The radio people went, oh, okay.
I said, well, yeah, but you're a doctor of communication. Has nothing to do with this. And he was serious.
He was serious?
I
love him.
Sure came away that.
I love him like a brother.
Anyway,
oh, my goodness.
That's those are my 5 things.
But you've known. Okay. I got one. If you want to help the marginalized community. Now, let's be serious here, because this subject could veer off into absurdity and people laugh, and it's not, especially to a certain group of people. How in the world can you get more marginalized than being a dwarf? Okay? They don't get, hey,
help make society better, hire a dwarf. They don't have anybody advocating for them, except for a while, Disney, when they would do Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In Hollywood, there's quite a few actors that are dwarfs. Who's the guy that was on Game of Thrones?
Peter Dinklage.
Yes.
Outstanding actor.
Well, he's part of this backlash that's causing jobs to be lost in the dwarf community. He made some kind of comment about, well, you should just be regular roles for dwarfs. You just don't draw attention that it's a dwarf in the movie.
Yeah.
You should be not only colorblind, you should be height blind. You don't see that.
I can agree with that.
Okay, yes, absolutely. And so, but no, out of the spirit of inclusion, Disney has excluded 6 of the dwarfs. It's Snow White and 1 dwarf, and 6 diverse people that you look at them, you're going, man, oh my God, what marginalized community are they representing? Even how they dress. Look, you can't put them in a category, LGBTQ, Black, Hispanic, whatever. They're just this hodgepodge. And along the way, as our actors strike, imagine if you're a dwarf actor going, that's 6 spots that could be open for competition.
Yep.
That could make or break a dwarf's career.
Absolutely.
Could catapult him like this Peter, what's his last name?
Dinklage.
Well, to his credit, he's backpedaled and say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, because the deleterious consequences that happened from that, he didn't, and I have to believe him. But that's when you just go,
So it's 7
try to be politically correct and give it into this woke left. You wind up marginalizing under the spirit of diversity and inclusion.
Group.
One of the most marginalized, I think, out there. What do you think?
all you have to do
I
is
had to get that off my chest.
All you have to do is look at TV and
I
movies.
am a
How
dwarf
many,
advocate.
How many dwarfs do you see in TV and movies?
Not many.
Exactly. So they're
Why is
already
that?
they're already being marginalized.
And I know there's a lot of, okay, let me ask you this. How many dwarfs did you see after Wizard of Oz? You would think there would be a lot of dwarfs made that movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have the dwarfs, the Lollipop Kids, we are the Lollipop
Can't
Kids, the
stand that
Lollipop
movie.
Kids.
What?
What?
I don't.
Oh, you didn't say that.
Well, I was
You
traumatized
didn't.
by that as a child.
The Flying Monkeys? Yeah.
The whole thing was weird.
I had to get
me.
through that. The Flying Monkeys scared them.
I mean, in its day, what was that, 1938 or something? I guess it was pretty cutting edge. But
Oh, man, I love it.
my
But outside of
sisters
the
were
Flying Monkeys.
traumatized as well. So.
Remember, it came around one time a year.
Yep. One time.
One time a year. And can you imagine being in the studio, in the theaters, rather, when that first came out, folks? Just imagine back in I think it was 1939. Everything was black and white.
Yeah.
And you go in that theater, and when Dorothy gets swept up, it's all black and white at the beginning, swept up in the house, and there's the witch on the bike. It sets up all the characters.
No,
Then-
you're going to cause me to get traumatized again.
Then it lands, and she walks out, and there's color for the first time on the screen. I bet there was a collective gasp in that audience.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
And then you look over there and see house landed on was it Wicked Witch of the North or South? Which one was the Wicked?
West.
The West?
Yeah.
I missed them
North
both. Well, yeah. So,
We're not talking about Civil War.
well, I know. Yeah, the
Hey, by
witch's
the way-
name was General Lee.
By the way,
The Wicked Witch.
you know, I forgot to mention this, but several months ago, can I ramble for a minute?
Hey, get me off the dwarf issue because I could talk
Okay.
all. Well, no, these people. What my point was back in the Wizard of Oz, there should have been a lot of parts. The dwarf movie made gazillions. Okay, do some other stories that had to deal with dwarfs.
Or just a regular.
But you didn't.
Just put them in as a regular cast member.
Yes.
And a regular role. I mean, that's
Right.
really what. Just
Yeah.
because they're
No, but
a
no.
dwarf doesn't mean they're not a good actor. I tell
The
you what.
Scarecrow gets his career
This-
played
yeah.
in. Tin Man, his off, and
Right.
I still remember the Scarecrow's little song. I could
Don't have
while
the heart.
away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the trees. Do. My head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain.
Oh,
Hey, wait, that's my theme song for
thought it
this show.
You did that.
All right, go
You did
ahead.
that
Help me
well.
out here. We're going to take a break here. You want to take a break and come back
Well,
to you or go now?
Oh, I don't care. It's your show.
Well, we take a quick break. We come
Okay.
back,
All
and then we will tease. Yeah! I love the King of Soul. We'll be right back. It's Alan Autry, No Retreat with Bullet Bob Leone.
I knew that I wouldn't.
So good. So good.
Oh, my.
I got you. What you going to talk about when we come back?
Oh, I was just going to do it on this day.
I love it.
Just on this day. We hadn't done that in a while because I
people like
substituted 5 things that a grumpy old man it's on his mind
on this day.
Or on this day. So we'll do it on this day coming back, if that's okay.
Let's do it. Okay. I remember on this day, back in 1967, during the summer, I went to the mailbox for the 27th time, hoping to get my letter from Annette Leva, who said she was going to write me. Once again, I'd opened it up, and there was the PG&E bill. There was a Joe Weider muscle magazine that I'd sent out for. But no letter from Annette.
And an SI, Sports Illustrated, but no letters.
So I grabbed it, walked brokenhearted back once again to the house.
Maybe.
Remember, we didn't have phone.
Hope springs eternal. You said, maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow will be the day. But
she did right, I think.
Sadly, that day never came.
It never came. Gosh, I was in love.
And you both moved on.
I was in love.
She was a gorgeous,
a great young lady. Just a wonderful person. Whole Leva family was great.
Gorgeous girl.
Yeah. Remember, we didn't have a phone. You guys had a phone.
Yes.
We were so we didn't even have.
We had a party line.
If you wanted to talk to us, you had to come to the house, which I couldn't understand. Joe hated people to just drop by, but he wouldn't get a phone. My stepdad. I remember we'd hear the truck pull up, especially when his brother Lynn would come over, my Uncle Lynn. And Lynn was one to come in, and you just sat down. You just listened to him for 2 hours, kind of like me here. Won't shut up.
He'd filibuster the whole day.
And I learned but through Joe, I learned how you're supposed to deal with life. Because he'd be sitting in his chair, he'd hear a truck pull up, he'd pull the curtain. I remember just like yesterday. You remember Joe?
Yeah.
He'd pull the curtain and go, oh, hell. Lynn's here. From that. Joe would get up, open the door. Well, hello there, Lynn. How you doing? Come on in. And I remember thinking, was that two-faced? No. That's just doing what you least want to do when you least want to do it because you're being courteous and kind and welcoming. And, even if you don't want to see somebody, put on that face that's because you may be making or breaking their day.
Did I ever tell you the story of
20 seconds?
Joe and my dad?
No, I'd like to hear it, though.
I think I told you. You might have forgotten because of your advanced age.
He loved Pete.
Joe, your stepdad, helped
10
build
seconds?
my dad's garage at the ranch back in the late 30s.
5 seconds?
Wow. That's where they first knew.
He loved Pete. Cut it up.
This hour of the Alan Autry Show is sponsored by Sinlaw, the most realistic artificial grass in the Central Valley.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat. I got to time this here show because Foghorn Autry has to determine when he's going to play just was it Jason Aldean's song. I'll say it's not a joke, son. Try that in a small town. We're going to play that. The reason I got to time it because we're going to get canceled quicker than you can say Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But have you listened to that song?
I've listened to the
There's
song.
not a racist moment in that
video.
There's not a he shows some riot footage from the summer 2020 riots. About 99% of them are white rioters.
Well,
the lady spitting in the cop's face is white. The one throwing a Molotov cocktail, white. And yet they get on there and saying it's racist. Why? Because you're saying we're going to protect our small town.
It's leading to
that building back there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that building has been in movies.
Disney
movies.
Yeah.
Come on, that's. But you had something. Let's go to you, Pearl.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this, but several months ago, one of our loyal listeners, Laura Fisher,
love Laura,
sent me because we were doing the on this day thing. She sent me a book. A big, thick book on this day.
Oh, wow.
Of happenings across the world.
Oh, my goodness.
So I've never used it until now, really. Thank you, Laura. I'm sorry it took me so long. But we're going to revive the On This Day segment.
Let's do it.
And
let's put that sucker
so
on
for
life
today,
support.
July 21st, 1861, a critical day in American history, the first Battle of Bull Run. The first full-scale battle between the Union and the Confederacy, and the Union troops, of course, were routed, casualties of about 3,000. Heretofore, the thinking had been that the Union would take care of these Confederates in pretty short order, and this war would last maybe 6 months. Unfortunately, the Union was routed at that point, and the war lasted another 4 years and claimed over 650,000 people. But today was the start of major battle in 1861. So thank you, Laura, and I'm looking at your On This Day book. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, and speaking of Laura, I wasn't going to bring this up today. I was going to save it for next week, but I'm going to delve into this subject because mentioning Laura really made me think of this. Because Laura, loyal listener, we don't always agree on everything, but we agree on God. She loves her country, and maintaining a strong country may differ on some ways to get there and keep our country great and sustainably so. But when you get down to the issues that really matter, respect for one another, love of family, just doing the right thing in your heart when the going gets tough, being able to stand up, because I know she's taking some stances that probably some of her friends said, Laura, how can she's smelled out Anthony Blinken a long time ago, as I did. But some of the other stuff with my positions on abortion, she has deep disagreements. I respect her and the others who disagree, because in my life, I know you can get past those things, because I've had deep relationships, still do, strong relationships, the kind that, hey, you call me, I'm there. I would be there for, and they would be there for me anytime, night or day. We have very significant differences politically. But I love them because the things that we have so many things in common that are so strong, that are so meaningful, that are so human. And I want to read this here because, Ronald Reagan ran against Jimmy Carter, and it was a really tough election, and they debated hard. And if you talk about Jimmy Carter today in the Republican ranks, he's either a joke or whatever about his presidency. He's passed away, but he did pass away, didn't he? Gosh.
Jimmy?
Yes, I believe so. I'm ashamed to say, but I know he's had cancer really bad. But he is not liked at all in the Republican Party, his legacy. I happen to think he was a very weak president on a lot of things. I was in college during his time, and he was not a dynamic leader, that's for sure. But he did one thing, that because of that one thing, and probably the only person that could do what he did, I consider him successful as a president. That was this. He managed to get two countries in the Middle East, to get a country, Egypt, to make peace with Israel. He got Anwar Sadat to sign a peace treaty with Menachem Begin, which people thought was impossible. And it was through their shared belief in God that they did that. Now, Sadat, we found out later, knew he was a dead man, and he got assassinated because of this. But his principle that peace had to come to the Middle East. It was his godly mission to do whatever was necessary, even give up his life to make peace, and he did. And Carter was able to pull that off. And there was this perception that's out there. Everybody uses the name of Reagan, Bobby.
Yeah.
On their Reagan Republicans. Reagan, he's still an icon. You want to get elected, be like Reagan. Well, you see how they conduct themselves, and they don't want to be like Reagan. In fact, if you had the Ronald Reagan that actually ran and served, he'd get primary. And that does not make a lot of people on the right happy when I say this, but the truth will set you free, but first it'll make you miserable. We got to start facing the miserable truth. That doesn't make me less conservative in my beliefs. Doesn't change my vote. With Reagan, to acknowledge that where the parties have gone.
the farthest extremes of both parties are controlling the party right now. I think anybody in their right mind, wouldn't you say, Robert, would agree?
That seems
but
to
let
be
me read you something.
Of course.
When Carter opened up his presidential library, he invited 3 presidents. Nixon was still alive, Ford was still alive, and Reagan. Well, Nixon and Ford declined to come to the opening of the presidential library. Ronald Reagan accepted and gave one of the speeches at the opening ceremony. In that speech, I'm not going to read all of it. Here's what he said about Jimmy Carter. It's Ronald Reagan. None of us today need feel any urge in the name of goodwill to downplay our differences. On the contrary, in a certain sense, we can be proud of our differences because they arrive from goodwill itself. For love of country, for concern for the challenges of our time, from respect for, and yes, even outright enjoyment of the democratic processes of disagreement and debate. Today, our differences attest to the greatness of our nation. For I can think of no country on earth where 2 political leaders could disagree so widely, yet come together in mutual respect. To paraphrase Mr. Jefferson, we are all Democrats, we are all Republicans, because we are all Americans. That's Ronald Reagan speaking. Now, when Reagan died, President Carter attended his funeral. I'm just going to read this. This is amazing. This is Carter talking about Reagan. For myself, I can pay you no higher honor than to simply say this. You gave yourself to your country, gracing the White House with your passionate intellect and commitment. Now you have become a permanent part of that grand old house, so right in tradition that belongs to us all. Rosalind and I join millions of people around the world who mourn the loss of President Reagan. He was a formidable political campaigner who provided an inspirational voice to America when our people were searching for a clear message of hope and confidence. He had unshakable beliefs and was able to express them effectively, both in America and abroad. During the past 10 years, Rosalind and I have often conveyed to Nancy Reagan our friendship and our admiration for her own great service, not only to her husband, but to our nation. We extend our condolences to the entire Reagan family during this time of grief. Can you imagine or picture any Democrat talking about any Republican like that? Or any Republican talking to any Democrat like that?
No. And I think we've talked about the great disparity now that there isn't, I'm not sure I can formulate the words. There isn't that mutual respect between a lot of these folks. I mean, they're on this side, we're on this side, and hey, you're over here because you're wrong, and you're over here because you're wrong, and there's no way that we're going to get together on this. There is no mutual respect, I don't think, between adverse parties anymore. It's just devolved into a lot of personal attacks and character assassination, I think. And once you get to that point, once you start making it personal, then it's over. And I think a lot of that, if you don't think it was personal against Robert Kennedy yesterday in that committee hearing, they lambasted this guy, and he's one of the members of the first families of the country.
Yeah.
And there were no holds barred. Wasserman Schultz just dismantled this guy.
Well, so did the
and it wasn't nice. I mean, she came at this guy pretty hard.
And the minority leader of the House,
yeah,
who just lambasted it.
Yeah.
Because, you know what it's about. You have the audacity to run against Joe Biden.
Well,
and we're going to not only disagree with you, which is fine. We're going to try to destroy you.
Exactly.
Reagan never tried to destroy Carter's family or way to make a living after president.
That was off limits.
And you just didn't go
do
there.
it.
And it's like Laura and I, we debate things here on it, and we agree with some things. And I'm sure Carter and Reagan did on certain things, but we have wide differences. But because of our faith, and Reagan had faith, and Carter had faith, they had a deep faith, and that created a bond between them that demanded that they respect each other. I think as we see the more secular state start to happen, less and less people are going to church, less and less people describe themselves as Christian, less and less people saying they believe in God at all. This Friedrich Nietzsche stuff about God is dead is taking hold with our youth, in particular our millennials and Generation Z. You're going to see this requirement to be respectful disappear. Because if you don't have a higher authority telling your heart, don't go there with that name you want to call that person. Because it's talking about restraint of emotion, restraint of our fleshly instincts to be eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. What you have over there in the Ukraine, Russia, is some Old Testament fighting, man. And you have the so-called Christian countries stoking it. There's nobody saying, let's get to the peace table and see if we can figure this out peacefully, so the killing must stop. And I tell you, that's one area Trump may have. After this Oppenheimer movie right now, Trump was the only, outside of DeSantis, but Trump is the only one who's forcefully saying, I want to see this killing stop. First thing I would do as president, if this war is still going on, is get Zelensky and Putin together and Xi Jinping, call a truce and figure this thing out. And on that issue alone, because it's such an existential threat to the entire world, you got to look at that candidate. And you folks on the left, take a long look at that. Go see Oppenheimer and come back, because there's certain issues, your stance on that issue overrides a whole lot of other stuff. If there was a Democrat leading the field and I had a Republican saying, I'm going to be in Ukraine for as long as it takes, spending whatever's necessary, and I'm not going to get out of Ukraine. The United States is not going to get out of Ukraine until the Russian army is ground into dust. That's a Republican saying that. And you got Joe Manchin saying, look, this war over there is the most pressing, real existential threat the world has ever seen. And I'm going to put it as a number one focus. I'm going to tell you right now, as an independent, I'm going with Joe. Now, right now, you don't have any Democrats saying that. You have Trump and DeSantis, and you have some Republicans like Lindsey Graham saying, let's spend $100 billion more. Bobby, what's your thoughts on that? There's certain issues that, man, you have got to put party aside and think about mankind and womankind and the survival of our species.
You have to look at the human
well, I mean,
but from that, Hoss, there has to be, kind of backtracking to what you said when we were talking about one side against the other and personal attack. There has to be a higher moral ground here. And if you don't have a strong faith, what moral ground do you stand on?
One you make up.
Because everything is open. Everything's
you make
open
up your
season.
own.
Yeah,
it's like
everything's open season.
Yeah.
So
you make up your rules. It's a wild west.
I have been aggrieved since the beginning of this war, simply because of the human toll that it takes.
Kids, old people.
Two girls a couple of weeks ago, two girls in a pizza restaurant in a city in Ukraine, and the daggum pizza restaurant gets bombed. Twin sisters killed, 14 years old. Just one small incident in a grand scheme of the human tragedy that's happening in Ukraine right now. And as an aside, I watch a lot of travel blogs. I just happened to catch this guy who had moved from San Francisco to Ukraine several years ago. And so every week he'd put out this blog about living in the Ukraine and being, from San Francisco and all of this stuff. And beautiful country. I mean, there was a lot of hinterlands out there where they're growing grain and that kind of stuff, and a lot of other places. But beautiful country, beautiful people. He said he loved it there, and then this. And the human tragedy and human toll that this is taking. Somebody has got to have, and you've talked about this ad nauseum. Seems like we're just talking to the wall half the time. Somebody within our governmental agency has to stand up and say, stop it. We need to do something. This is crazy. You can't keep going. How long does it, we asked this, you asked this question in February of 2022 when this thing started. After about a month, how long is it going to go on? Well, I guess it goes on as long as we keep sending them money. and now sending them F-16 fighter jets.
And now we got tanks, fighter jets, troops.
I mean, how long does this go on, folks? And believe me, I'm not one for a lot of wars and all of that kind of stuff. But where does it end? Where does it end?
It's again,
or does it?
Well,
eventually, I guess it will, but at what cost?
Well, you're going to have some situation eventually, like North and South Korea. That's what's going to happen, or the end of the world. If you do what?
Well, the
Lloyd
options
Austin,
are getting slimmer.
Well, Lloyd Austin. Here you have
that guy,
and you have Milley. They're coming out with what they're speaking to the president is victory. You know, because you ask yourself, what does victory look like? What is victory? Well, to them, they communicated to the president and to us, to the people, that in their minds, victory is when Russia is beaten so badly they will not be respected or a player on the national scene ever again. You're not going to do that to a military power.
Not going to.
You can't do that to North Korea. Now, they do that with their own policies. They grind themselves in it. We're not going to. Why? Because they have an atomic bomb, and they're going to deliver it. You're living in a post-Oppenheimer world, a post-Hiroshima, Nagasaki world. And that requires tough negotiation based in reality. And the question is, do you want the world to survive, or do you want to destroy the world? That is the starting point. There's no other option. There's nukes everywhere. Somehow, you have to have a policy that does the best it can from having somebody get so ticked off, so crazy that they push the button, or AI accidentally launches a nuclear arsenal. I mean, all of those threats are already out there. Why do we increase the threat of that by having this war of egos now in Ukraine? And, you got to stop. Trump is the only one making that one of his top three. You notice you don't hear it talked about on any of the candidates. Joe Biden doesn't talk about it as a campaign issue. You're not hearing any other candidates besides Trump and DeSantis, and many times on them, it's not the first thing they talk about. And you talk about we got to fix the economy. Nothing's going to matter if we all blow up. What part of that do you not understand? Oh, that's never going to happen. Answer me truthfully. Did you ever think, if I told you there's a possibility that there's going to be a virus leak out of a Chinese lab, it's going to become a pandemic around the world, and they're going to lock you up in your apartment and not let you go any place for about 1.5 years and 2 years? You're going to shut down every business. Your kids are not going to be able to go to school. Everybody's going to go freaking nuts. The power brokers are going to come out and totally turn into tyrants. Okay? Would you believe that? If you would have said, hey, there's going to be about 13 guys sneak into the country. They're going to go to flight school. They're going to take flying lessons, but they're not going to learn how to land because they have no interest in learning how to land. They happen to be from a Middle East country who hates us, and they're going to hijack 3 airplanes and go bring down the Twin Towers. I would be canceled. I would be laughed at. So would you. That's never going to happen. It happened. It happened. And there's been an old doo-doo about this. Oh, can I have a do-over? No, sorry. When the missile goes, you can't call it back. And he's saying, well, Alan, it will never happen. There hasn't been a weapon created by man that has not eventually been used. So what's to say that our world is so sane now? People are getting along around the world so well. Heck, we don't have to worry about that, Bullet Bob.
Hey, do you remember a song back in 1965 by Barry McGuire?
Oh, Eve of Destruction.
Called Eve of Destruction.
Yes.
You listen to the words of that
I'm
song
gonna listen
now.
to it tonight. Yeah,
and you could
spot on.
You could parallel it to 2023. There's no world to save. There's no world to save with the world in the grave.
Ooh, he's a local boy.
Yeah, Barry McGuire. Yeah.
Listen, we're running out of time. I want to pick that subject up, but I want to plant the seed for probably Taco Tuesday.
Okay.
You got these IRS whistleblowers, high-level IRS officials, coming out saying Hunter Biden was pampered. There's a whole set of processes for Hunter Biden. He was. They ran the clock out. The IRS did. Definitely showed favoritism towards the Bidens. They have irrefutable proof. Testifying before Congress, they're being made out as just bald-faced liars. I asked myself,
They're really getting hammered too.
well, I mean, look at the mainstream media, their history. They believed John Avenatti. They believed everything John Avenatti, the guy that's in prison now for stealing a bunch of money from Stormy Daniels. I mean, Trump bad enough. Whoever had, they say he had sex with her. He stole all her money, but you believe him. You believe Jesse Smollett when you said two MAGA guys in Chicago jumped him in MAGA country in Chicago. You believe him. You believe Elizabeth Warren when she said she was Indian. You believe Barack Obama when he said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And you knew darn well. You saw the bill. You knew that wasn't going to happen. You believe all those people. Yet you won't believe highly decorated IRS agents who have nothing to gain at all from this world. Worldly adulation, forget about it. And they will never work for the government again.
And isn't one of them a Democrat as well?
One is a gay Democrat, the last thing in the world. And my gosh, guilty of telling the truth. But they've totally dismissed them. They don't even cover it. You look on the news, CNN will not cover their testimony. The only network who shows a little bit of fairness is CBS. CBS sat down with Joe Ziegler, and you just sit there and going, do you really think people don't know what's going on? It just shows how stupid you think people are. In particular, people that watch your program, your woke left, you think they're so stupid that if you showed that clip, that they would suddenly be brainwashed and start voting for right to life. They become instant conservatives. Anyway, I'd like to talk about that on Tuesday.
All right.
Pearl,
sounds good.
Love you. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you.
And appreciate you folks for being here. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you,
and just
folks.
do your best. Let God do the rest. I promise it's going to turn out the way it's supposed to. Maybe not the way we like it, but the way it's supposed to. Love y'all. Bye-bye now.